There's a war happening inside your head right now. A silent, brutal conflict between two versions of yourself. One knows exactly what needs to be done. The other simply refuses to do it. And every single day, you're caught in the crossfire, wondering why you can't just be the person you know you should be. You've blamed yourself 1,000 times, called yourself lazy, weak, undisciplined. You've looked at others who seem to have it all figured out and asked yourself, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have what they have? Why can't I just do the damn thing? Here's what's about to shatter everything you believe about yourself. That voice in your head telling you you're broken, it's lying. That shame you carry for not being consistent, it was never yours to carry. And that discipline you think you lack, you never lacked it. You've just been fighting a war you were never supposed to win. Because the enemy isn't laziness. It's not weakness. It's not some moral failure coded into your DNA. The enemy is the 3-pound biological machine sitting inside your skull. And it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Keep you alive. Not successful. Not fulfilled. Not evolved. Just alive. Your brain doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about survival. And in the ancient calculus of survival, change equals danger. Effort equals wasted energy. Ambition equals unnecessary risk. So every time you try to improve, every time you attempt to break a pattern, every time you reach for something better, your brain activates its defense systems and pulls you back to safety, back to comfort, back to mediocrity. This isn't a metaphor. This is neurobiology. Cold, hard, measurable fact. For millions of years, while our species crawled through hostile landscapes where every calorie mattered and every mistake could mean death, the human brain evolved one singular directive: make it to tomorrow. Not thrive, not grow, not achieve potential, just survive one more day. And in that context, conserving energy wasn't just smart, it was essential. Seeking immediate rewards wasn't impulsive, it was strategic. Avoiding unnecessary effort wasn't lazy, it was life-saving. Your ancestors didn't wake up early to work on personal development. They stayed in the cave because going outside meant potential threats. They didn't resist the urge to eat because they were disciplined. They ate everything available because scarcity was guaranteed. They didn't plan 5 years ahead because 5 years ahead didn't exist. Only now mattered. Only survival counted. That programming kept humanity alive. It worked perfectly for hundreds of thousands of years. But now we're playing a different game. And the old software is sabotaging the new reality. Because modern life doesn't reward survival instincts. It rewards delayed gratification, long-term thinking, consistent effort, self-control. Everything your brain was specifically designed not to do. You're essentially trying to run cutting-edge applications on ancient hardware, and the system keeps crashing. Every morning when that alarm goes off and you hit snooze, that's not you being weak. That's your brain protecting energy reserves. Every time you open social media instead of working on your project, that's not procrastination. That's your neural circuitry choosing guaranteed dopamine over uncertain future rewards. Every time you skip the gym, avoid the difficult conversation, put off the important task, your brain is doing its job perfectly. It's just the wrong job for the life you're trying to build. And here's the part that should make you angry. Society has been lying to you. Self-help culture has been lying to you. That motivational speaker you follow has been lying to you. They told you discipline is about willpower, about wanting it badly enough, about pushing through, about being mentally tough. But that's like telling someone to outrun their own shadow. You're not fighting against external obstacles. You're fighting against millions of years of evolutionary programming with nothing but positive thinking and a to-do list. Think about how insane that is. You, with your handful of good intentions and motivational YouTube videos, trying to override biological systems that have been refined across countless generations. Systems that controlled survival before language existed, before culture, before civilization. And you wonder why you keep losing. The answer is simple and devastating. You can't win that fight. Not with force, not with effort, not with willpower alone. But here's where everything changes. Because there's another way. A way that doesn't require you to be stronger, just smarter. a way that doesn't fight against your brain but works with it, manipulates it, turns its own mechanisms against its resistance. The people you admire, the ones who seem naturally disciplined, who appear to have unlimited self-control, who execute consistently without visible struggle, they're not superhuman. They haven't transcended biology. They've simply figured out something you haven't. They stopped trying to force change. They started designing it. And that's what we're about to do together. We're going to dismantle the mythology of discipline, strip away the lies you've been told, and rebuild your understanding from the ground up with a foundation based not on shame or effort, but on architecture and strategy. If you've ever hated yourself for quitting, if you've ever felt disgusted watching yourself repeat the same self-destructive patterns, if you've ever looked in the mirror and genuinely wondered if you're just fundamentally different from successful people, stay with me. Because this isn't about judgment. This isn't about trying harder. This is about finally understanding why nothing worked before and what actually will. Let me ask you something. When you think about discipline, what image comes to mind? Probably someone grinding, suffering, resisting temptation through sheer force of will, someone who wants it more than you do, someone with that special something you don't have. That image is a fantasy, a dangerous, destructive fantasy that's keeping you trapped. Because discipline, real discipline, the kind that lasts, doesn't look like suffering. It looks like engineering. It doesn't feel like resistance. It feels like inevitability. And it doesn't come from some mystical inner strength. It comes from understanding a fundamental truth about human neurology. Your brain is not rational, it's efficient. And efficiency, in neural terms, means one thing: minimum input, maximum output, least effort, quickest reward, shortest path from discomfort to comfort. Neuroscientists call this cognitive ease, the brain's automatic preference for whatever requires the least mental processing. This isn't a decision you make. It's a decision that gets made for you, beneath consciousness, before you even realize a choice is happening. The path of least resistance doesn't win because it's better. It wins because it's easier. And easier always wins when effort is the only alternative. So when you open your laptop to work and immediately check email instead, that's cognitive ease. When you plan to read but end up scrolling instead, that's cognitive ease. When you set your alarm for early but wake up and negotiate with yourself until you've justified sleeping in, that's cognitive ease. The brain, presented with two options, will choose the one requiring less energy every single time, unless the alternative is structured to be even easier. And here's what nobody tells you. Willpower is just another word for fighting cognitive ease. It's the conscious mind trying to override automatic processes. And that works for about as long as you'd expect when you're fighting against your own biology. Studies show willpower depletes throughout the day like a battery. Every decision drains it. Every resistance exhausts it. By evening, when you need it most, it's gone. And when willpower fails, what takes over? Autopilot, default settings, the path of least resistance, which is why you can start every morning with perfect intentions and end every night wondering what happened. Nothing happened except biology doing what biology does. So the question isn't, how do I get more willpower? The question is, how do I stop needing willpower in the first place? And that answer is going to change everything. Think about your physical environment right now. Look around. What's visible? What's within arm's reach? What's easy to access? Because every object in your space is either voting for your future self or against it. And most people's environments are rigged for failure without them even realizing it. Let's run an experiment. You want to start working out consistently. Noble goal. You're motivated. You set your intention. You make the decision. Tomorrow morning it happens. But when tomorrow comes, where are your workout clothes? Probably buried in a drawer. Where are your shoes? Maybe in the closet. Maybe in the car. Maybe you're not even sure. What's immediately available when you wake up? Your phone, social media, email, news. The bed is warm, the room is comfortable, the couch is 3 steps away. Now be honest. In that scenario, what's actually going to happen? You already know. Because it's happened before, many times. The brain performs its instant calculation. Effort required to work out versus effort required to stay comfortable. And comfort wins. Not because you're weak, because the environment made comfort the path of least resistance. This is what most people get catastrophically wrong. They think the battle happens in their mind, that if they just want it badly enough, if they just commit hard enough, they'll override the resistance. But the battle doesn't happen in your mind, it happens in your environment. And your environment is winning because you set it up to win. There's a concept that's transformed how thousands of people approach behavior change. It's called choice architecture, and it's brutally simple. Human beings make choices based on what's easiest, not what's best. What's visible, not what's valuable. What's accessible, not what's optimal. Which means if you want to change behavior, you don't change the person, you change the architecture. Researchers did a study in a corporate cafeteria. They moved water bottles from the back of the refrigerator to the front. Nothing else changed. No health campaign, no incentives, no education, just proximity. Water consumption went up. Soda consumption went down. Same people, same choices available. Different architecture, different outcome. Now apply this to your life. Want to read more? Don't put the book in the drawer. Put it on your pillow. Want to eat healthier? Don't hide vegetables in the bottom drawer of the fridge. Put them at eye level. Want to stop wasting time on your phone? Don't keep it on your nightstand. Put it in another room. These sound almost stupidly simple, and that's exactly why they work. Because the brain doesn't respond to complexity, it responds to friction. And when you remove friction from the right behavior and add friction to the wrong behavior, you're not fighting your brain anymore. You're redirecting it. Disciplined people aren't more disciplined. They're better architects. They've structured their space, their routines, their triggers, so that doing the right thing requires less energy than doing the wrong thing. They don't wake up stronger. They wake up in an environment where the correct choice is the obvious choice. This is the shift that changes everything. Stop trying to be stronger. Start designing smarter. Stop relying on self-control. Start building systems where self-control isn't necessary. Because here's the reality. Self-control is fragile. It breaks under pressure. It fails when you're tired, stressed, hungry, distracted. And modern life guarantees you'll be all of those things regularly. So if your entire strategy depends on self-control, you're building on sand. But if your strategy is environmental design, if the right behavior is embedded into the structure of your space and routine, it becomes automatic, inevitable, effortless. Let me give you a practical framework. Right now, think of one habit you want to build, just one. Now ask yourself these questions. Is this behavior visible in my environment? Is it immediately accessible? Does it require less effort than the competing behavior? If the answer to any of those is no, you don't have a discipline problem. You have a design problem. And design problems have design solutions. Make the right behavior obvious. Put triggers everywhere. Visual cues. Environmental reminders. Objects that force you to confront the choice. Make the wrong behavior invisible. Remove temptations. Hide distractions. Create barriers between you and the paths you're trying to avoid. Make the right behavior easy. Reduce steps. Eliminate friction. Prepare in advance. Make the wrong behavior difficult. Add complexity. Increase effort. Make it inconvenient. When you structure your environment this way, you're not being manipulative. You're being intelligent. You're recognizing that you're not fighting against external forces. You're navigating internal ones. And the smartest way to navigate them is to make the current carry you where you want to go instead of fighting upstream. But environmental design is just the foundation. There's another layer. A way to hijack the automatic systems already running in your brain and turn them into allies instead of enemies. That's where things get really interesting. Your brain runs on loops, automatic sequences that fire without conscious thought. You probably executed a dozen of them today without realizing. You woke up and checked your phone. You brushed your teeth after breakfast. You made coffee when you entered the kitchen. You sat on the couch and turned on the TV. None of those required decisions. They're behavioral scripts encoded so deeply that they run automatically. Cue, routine, reward. The loop fires, completes, reinforces. And every repetition makes it stronger, more automatic, more resistant to change. Most people try to build new habits from scratch. They decide they want to meditate, or journal, or exercise, and they treat it like a standalone behavior that requires independent motivation every single time. Which is why it fails. Because creating a new behavior from nothing requires massive activation energy. The brain resists. The excuses flood in. The delay begins. But there's a different approach. Instead of creating new behaviors, you attach them to existing ones. You hijack the loops already running and insert new actions into the sequence. This is called habit stacking, and it's devastatingly effective because it leverages neural pathways that are already automatic. Here's how it works. Take a behavior you already do every day without thinking. After that behavior, immediately do the new behavior you want to build. The existing habit becomes the cue. The new habit becomes the routine. The brain starts linking them. Over time, the sequence becomes automatic. After I pour my morning coffee, I write 3 things I'm grateful for. After I brush my teeth at night, I read 1 page. After I lock my front door leaving for work, I listen to an educational podcast. After I sit at my desk, I write for 10 minutes before checking email. The power isn't in the individual habits. The power is in the coupling. You're creating neural associations, behavioral chains, and chains are stronger than isolated links. But here's what most people get wrong when they try this. They stack too much. They make the new behavior too complex. They create friction, and the whole thing collapses. So there's a specific method to make this actually work. The new behavior must be small, ridiculously small, something that takes less than 2 minutes. Not meditate for 20 minutes. Sit on the meditation cushion. Not write 1,000 words. Write 1 sentence. Not work out for an hour. Put on workout clothes. You're not trying to complete the behavior. You're trying to show up. Because showing up creates identity, and identity creates consistency. The new behavior must be specific. Not read more. Read 1 page of the book on my nightstand. Not eat healthier. Eat 1 serving of vegetables with dinner. Vague intentions fail. Specific actions succeed. The new behavior must be immediate. No gap between the trigger and the action. After I do X, I immediately do Y. Not later. Not when I feel like it. Immediately. The tighter the connection, the stronger the neural coupling. When you follow this structure, something remarkable happens. The new behavior stops feeling like effort. It starts feeling like continuation. You're not deciding whether to do it, you're just completing the sequence. The habit becomes part of the routine. The routine becomes part of the identity. And here's where it gets exponential. These small stacks compound. You start with 1, then another, then another. Each one seems insignificant, but over weeks, months, years, you're not the same person anymore. You've built an entirely different lifestyle, 1 tiny coupling at a time. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They want massive change immediately. They try to overhaul everything at once. They fail. They quit. They blame themselves. But the people who actually transform don't try to change everything. They change 1 small thing. Then they let it compound. You're not trying to become a different person overnight. You're trying to become slightly better each day through small behaviors that stack and compound until they've created a completely different trajectory. But even with all this understanding, even with environmental design and habit stacking, there's still one massive obstacle. One pattern that destroys more progress than anything else, and most people don't even understand what it really is: procrastination. That word probably triggers something in you: shame, frustration, self-judgment. You've been told it's laziness, that it's a character flaw, that you just need to stop being weak and start being productive. But that's completely wrong, and believing that lie is exactly what keeps you trapped. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's not a moral failure. It's a design flaw, a symptom screaming at you that something in your system is broken. And until you understand what's actually happening when you procrastinate, you'll keep fighting the wrong battle. When you avoid a task, your brain isn't being irrational. It's being completely logical. It's running a cost-benefit analysis at lightning speed and determining that the immediate cost of doing the task outweighs the delayed benefit of having done it. The brain sees effort now, uncertain reward later. Meanwhile, it sees distraction now, guaranteed pleasure now. The choice is obvious. This is why studying feels impossible while scrolling feels effortless. Studying requires focus, energy, discomfort, with only abstract future benefits. Scrolling requires nothing and delivers immediate stimulation. For a brain wired for survival, for instant rewards, for energy conservation, there's no contest. So procrastination isn't you being weak. It's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. And screaming at yourself for being lazy is like screaming at water for being wet. You're fighting biology with shame, and shame has never won that fight. What actually works is understanding the mechanics of behavior and using them intentionally. There are 4 laws, 4 principles that determine whether a behavior happens or gets avoided. And when you see them clearly, procrastination becomes predictable, manageable, solvable. First law, make it obvious. If a behavior isn't visible, it won't happen. The brain needs environmental cues, constant reminders, triggers that force awareness. What's out of sight is out of mind. What's visible is what gets done. Second law, make it attractive. The behavior needs to generate some anticipation, some element of pleasure or interest. If it's purely punishment, the brain will avoid it. You can make boring tasks attractive by pairing them with things you enjoy. Music while you work, a favorite drink while you study, a reward after completion. Third law, make it easy. Every bit of friction kills motivation. Every additional step is another opportunity to quit. The behavior needs to be so simple, so accessible, so low barrier that saying no is harder than saying yes. Fourth law, make it satisfying. The brain needs feedback, immediate reward, a sense of progress or completion. Without this, the behavior doesn't stick. The neural pathway doesn't strengthen. The habit dies. Now let's test this against reality. Imagine someone who wants to study every evening, but their current setup looks like this. Study materials are in their backpack across the room. Their desk is covered in random objects. The TV is on in the background. Their phone is in their hand. They plan to study for 2 hours straight with no breaks. There's no tracking system, no visible progress, no reward for completion. What happens? They open TikTok. They feel guilty. They promise tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow looks exactly the same. Now watch what happens when the 4 laws are applied. The study materials are already open on a clean desk when they sit down. Obvious, their favorite tea is ready. Calming music is playing. Attractive, they commit to just 5 minutes to start. Easy. After 5 minutes, they mark progress on a visible chart and allow themselves a small reward. Satisfying, same person, same brain, same task, completely different outcome. Not because they became more disciplined, because they designed better. This is the paradigm shift. When you procrastinate, stop asking what's wrong with me. Start asking what's wrong with the system. Is this behavior obvious enough? Attractive enough? Easy enough? Satisfying enough? If the answer is no to even one of those, you've identified the problem. And problems have solutions. The fascinating thing is that when you fix the design, procrastination often just disappears. You don't overcome it through willpower. You dissolve it through structure. The task that seemed impossible yesterday becomes natural today. Not because you changed, because the friction changed. But maybe you're thinking, okay, this makes sense theoretically, but I still hate doing these things. I still don't want to wake up early. I still don't enjoy studying or working out or doing hard things. So let me address the belief that's probably holding you back more than anything else. There's this toxic idea floating around productivity culture that you need to love the process, that you need to fall in love with the grind, that if you're not passionate about every task, you're doing it wrong. You've probably heard the phrases, love the journey, do what you love and you'll never work a day, fall in love with discipline. It sounds inspiring, it sounds profound, and it's completely false. Worse, it's demotivating for anyone actually trying to build a better life. Because here's the truth most people won't tell you. You don't need to like discipline to become disciplined. You just need to make it inevitable. The most productive people on the planet don't wake up every morning excited about their routines. They don't feel passionate about every task. They don't have unlimited enthusiasm for doing difficult things. What they have is something entirely different. They have systems that work even when they don't feel like it. Structures that ensure the right actions happen regardless of mood, energy, or desire. Think about someone who runs every morning. You might assume they love running, that they wake up energized and eager to hit the pavement. But ask them honestly, and most will tell you the truth. On 9 out of 10 mornings, they'd rather stay in bed. Their body craves more sleep. Their mind generates excuses. It's too cold, too hot, too early, too late. Today's not the right day. But they run anyway. Not because they want to, because the system makes it easier to run than not to run. Before bed, they laid out their running clothes, put them right next to the bed where they'll see them immediately. They set their phone alarm across the room so they have to physically get up to turn it off. They prepared a playlist that starts automatically. They have a running partner meeting them at a specific time and place. They know the exact route. They have breakfast ready for after. The decision was made before the feeling arrived. The structure was built before the resistance appeared. In that second scenario, running didn't become enjoyable. It remained hard, but it became inevitable. Because every potential friction point was removed and every support structure was added. The path of least resistance became the correct path. This is what disciplined people actually do. They don't rely on feelings. They build systems that override feelings. They don't wait for motivation. They create conditions where motivation isn't necessary. They don't fight their brain's preference for ease. They manipulate the definition of what's easy. And here's the critical realization. Your goal shouldn't be to fall in love with discipline. Your goal should be to make important behaviors so automatic, so deeply integrated into your routine, that executing them requires less effort than avoiding them. That's the difference between living in the world of motivation and living in the world of systems. In the world of motivation, everything depends on how you feel, your energy level, your mood, your temporary enthusiasm. And feelings change constantly, which means your behavior changes constantly, which means you never build momentum, never create consistency, never achieve transformation. In the world of systems, feelings become irrelevant. The action happens automatically. It's the default, the baseline. The path you follow, not because you chose it in the moment, but because you designed it in advance. And design always beats decision when decision depends on willpower. There's a principle that captures this perfectly. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, which means your future isn't determined by what you want. It's determined by what you've automated. And the more you automate the right behaviors, the less you need motivation. That unreliable, unstable, fleeting resource that everyone chases but nobody can sustain. So saying, I don't like waking up early, or I hate working out, or I'm just not a morning person, those aren't valid excuses anymore. They're misunderstandings of how behavior actually works. Nobody needs to love these things. You just need to structure your life so they happen before you have time to debate whether you feel like it. And that brings us to something deeper, something more fundamental than any technique or strategy. Because you can have perfect environmental design, you can stack habits flawlessly, you can eliminate procrastination, but none of it lasts if there's a disconnect at the identity level. True transformation doesn't happen when you force yourself to act different. It happens when you see yourself as someone different. And that shift, that internal reconstruction of self-concept, is where everything we've discussed converges into something powerful and permanent. Most people approach behavior change backwards. They focus on outcomes. They want to lose weight, make more money, build a business, get in shape, and they create plans based on what they want to achieve. But outcomes are surface level. Results are downstream from something much deeper, from identity. Who you are determines what you do far more than what you want determines what you do. Because behavior flows from belief, and belief flows from identity. If you see yourself as someone who quits, you'll find reasons to quit. If you see yourself as someone who follows through, you'll find ways to follow through. The external behavior is just the visible expression of the internal identity. So the deepest level of behavior change isn't what do I want to have, it's who do I want to become. And more importantly, who do I believe I already am? Every action you take is a vote for a type of person. Every time you work out, you're voting for the identity of someone athletic. Every time you write, you're voting for the identity of someone creative. Every time you execute, even when you don't feel like it, you're voting for the identity of someone disciplined. And here's what makes this so powerful. You don't need to wait until you've achieved something to claim the identity. You claim the identity through small actions, and the identity reinforces the actions. It's a feedback loop. Act like the person you want to become. The actions accumulate as evidence. The evidence shapes belief. The belief becomes identity. The identity guides future behavior automatically. This is why someone who sees themselves as a runner will find time to run even when life gets chaotic. Not because they have more discipline, because running is part of who they are. Skipping a run feels like a violation of self. It creates cognitive dissonance. The brain doesn't like that. So it course corrects naturally. Same with any identity. Someone who sees themselves as a reader reads. Someone who sees themselves as a learner learns. Someone who sees themselves as disciplined acts disciplined, not through constant effort, through alignment. The behavior and the identity are congruent, and congruence requires no energy to maintain. So the question becomes, how do you shift identity? And the answer is surprisingly simple. You act as if. You behave like the person you're becoming, even in small ways, even when it feels fake at first. Because every action is evidence, and your brain is constantly collecting evidence to form beliefs about who you are. If you want to be disciplined, act like someone disciplined would act. What would a disciplined person do right now? They'd start the task. They'd follow through. They'd execute despite not feeling like it. So you do that. Once, then again, then again. And each time you're telling yourself, I'm the kind of person who does what needs to be done. I'm the kind of person who follows through. I'm the kind of person who doesn't quit. Those micro-affirmations compound. They reshape self-concept. And when self-concept changes, everything downstream changes with it. You stop needing external motivation because the behavior is internally driven. You stop fighting resistance because there's no longer a conflict between who you are and what you do. This is the ultimate form of discipline, not forced adherence to rules, but natural expression of identity. You're not trying to be someone you're not. You're becoming who you actually are through consistent action aligned with that vision. And here's what most people miss. You don't need to transform overnight. You don't need dramatic change. You need small, consistent votes in the direction of the identity you want to claim. 2 minutes of the new behavior is a vote. 5 minutes is a vote. Showing up even when it's imperfect is a vote. And when you accumulate enough votes, the election is won. The identity shifts, and the behaviors follow naturally. So if you've made it this far, you're standing at a decision point. You now understand something most people never grasp. That discipline isn't about strength, it's about structure. That willpower isn't the answer. Design is. That you don't need to love the process, you need to make it inevitable. And that transformation happens not through force, but through identity. You have 2 paths now. You can continue doing what you've always done. Blaming yourself for lacking discipline, waiting for motivation, relying on willpower, fighting against your own biology with nothing but good intentions. That path leads exactly where it's always led. Frustration, inconsistency, self-judgment, the same cycles repeating. Or you can start building differently. You can design your environment to make the right behaviors easy and the wrong behaviors difficult. You can stack new habits onto existing ones. You can apply the 4 laws to eliminate procrastination. You can stop waiting for desire and start creating systems. You can claim a new identity through small daily votes. And you can let structure do the work that willpower never could. This isn't about perfection. It's about process. It's not about never failing. It's about failing better. Building smarter. Designing a life where discipline becomes the default instead of the exception. So here's what I want you to do. Right now, think of one behavior. Just one. Something you've been trying to change. Something you've failed at before. Something where you blamed yourself for not being strong enough. Now apply what you've learned. How can you make it obvious? How can you make it attractive? How can you make it easy? How can you make it satisfying? What existing habit can you stack it onto? What environmental trigger can you create? What identity are you voting for when you do this behavior? Write it down. Not later. Right now. Because the act of writing is itself a vote. It's evidence that you're the kind of person who follows through, who takes action, who doesn't just consume information but applies it. And if this video changed how you see discipline, if it shifted something fundamental in how you understand yourself and your behavior, then subscribe to this channel. Because we don't deal in surface-level advice here. We don't trade in motivational platitudes. We go deeper, into psychology, into neuroscience, into the actual mechanisms that drive human behavior. And we build real solutions for real people trying to create real change. What's the first habit you're redesigning? Tell me in the comments. Because when you write it, you're not just sharing. You're committing. You're casting a vote for your new identity. And that vote counts more than you realize.